Imagine you're sitting in the front row of this really grand, epic play, right?
Okay, I'm picturing it.
The stage is massive, and the actors are charging forward with these gleaming swords, and there's like thunder roaring in the background. The stakes feel absolutely life or death, and you are totally swept up in the action.
Right, the classic high fantasy setup.
Exactly. But then the lighting shifts just a fraction, and you notice something up in the rafters. You see these thick, heavy strings dropping down from the ceiling, and they're attached to the shoulders of every single hero on that stage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They aren't actually fighting for survival at all. They're just, well, marionettes, violently acting out a script that was written centuries before they were even born.
Man, once you see those strings, it completely alters the reality of the performance.
It really does.
The blistering, triumphant action on stage suddenly isn't heroic at all. I mean, it's basically a claustrophobic tragedy disguised as an adventure.
And that profound feeling, that realization that the heroes are trapped in the binding of their own story, that is exactly what we are unpacking today. We're doing a deep dive into the lyrical architecture of the 2001 self-titled album by the folk metal band Ensiferum.
Which is such a fascinating piece of work to look at.
It really is, because on the surface, if you just glance at the track list for this deep dive or, read a few stanzas, you see dragons, ancient rituals, elves, golden swords. It presents itself as your standard run-of-the-mill high fantasy escapism.
Yeah, the typical swords and sorcery stuff.
Right. But our mission today is to look closer at the subtext, because hidden within these 12 tracks is a surprisingly cohesive and frankly incredibly dark narrative. It's all about predestination, the psychological toll of being a visionary, and this literal cosmic struggle against fate itself.
And, the album actually primes you for this mechanical, inescapable universe right from the very first second.
Oh, with the first track.
Yeah, it opens with an instrumental piece that's simply titled Intro. There are no human voices, no grand declarations of heroism at all.
Just atmosphere.
Exactly. It just establishes this vast, purely atmospheric state, kind of easing you into a world of complex, ancient myth before the lyrics even begin to construct the narrative cage around the characters.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because right out of the gate, after that atmospheric intro, we're introduced to these supposedly mighty heroes. But their defining characteristic isn't their strength, is it?
Not at all.
It's that their lives are completely dictated by prophecy. I mean, in the very second track, Hero in a Dream, the protagonist's agency is just stripped away in the opening lines.
Right. A witch basically reads his palm and seals his fate.
Yeah. She seals him into a life where his path will, quote, turn into darkness.
Yeah.
And he has to face demons alone.
And we see that exact same structural entrapment in the next track, too, Token of Time.
Oh, yeah, the chosen one trope.
Right. The character is labeled the Chosen One, but look at the specific language the band is using. He is bound forever. His entire existence is reduced to an assigned task. He has to harvest the field of time with the old man's scythe.
So the concept of choice simply doesn't exist for him.
No, not at all. And even when we get to the rebel warriors in Guardians of Fate, they ride out shouting these fierce battle cries, but the lyrics explicitly state their destiny was to be dead.
Wow.
Yeah. The Prophet of the Moon said they would burn. And so, no matter how hard they fight, they just burn.
I was reading through these lyrics, and it instantly reminded me of playing like a massive open-world RPG video game.
Oh, I love that comparison.
Right, because you boot it up, you spend hours customizing your character's fate.
Way too many hours.
Yeah, exactly. You pick your weapons, and you run out into the digital forest feeling like you have absolute free will, like you can go anywhere.
But the developers already wrote the ending.
Yes. The game is completely on rails. If the witch already programmed that you're going to fight demons, and the moon prophet already coded the guardians to burn, then no one in these songs is actually making a choice.
Right.
They're just desperately speedrunning a pre-written script.
What's fascinating here is the brutal tension the lyrics create, between the visceral action of the characters and the fatalistic reality of their universe.
Yeah, the verbs are crazy aggressive.
Exactly. If you isolate the verbs, they slash, they race with the wind, they threaten every barrier. And the music itself, it's folk metal. It's defined by these galloping drum beats and driving energetic riffs.
It literally makes you feel like you're charging into battle.
It really does. But then you look at the nouns. They are bound by prophecy, by time, by fate. They're sweating and bleeding to threaten every barrier, but they just cannot break the ultimate barrier of their own predetermined ending.
So the physical effort is maximum,
Yeah.
but the narrative outcome is zero. It makes that line in Hero in a Dream incredibly heavy. The one that goes, oh, such beauty and time, but it's just external. He is bound by a lie.
Yeah, because the grand adventure itself is the lie. It forces us to confront a core underlying anxiety of the human condition.
How so?
Well, I mean, we don't live in a world of elves and golden swords, obviously, but we do strive, right? We build our lives, we fight fiercely against disease and poverty and failure.
Sure, we try to carve our own path.
But the final outcome for all of us, mortality, is already written. The album takes that universal human reality, strips away our modern distractions, and just amplifies it to a mythological scale.
To show how terrifying it is to fight with everything you have when the end is set in stone.
Exactly.
Okay, so we have these warriors who are completely oblivious to the strings pulling them. But the album doesn't stay there, does it?
No, it shifts focus entirely.
The narrative zooms in on the quiet, solitary figures, the ones who actually possess the cosmic knowledge to, see those strings. And it turns out having that insight is an incredibly isolating experience.
Yeah, we see this deeply explored in the tracks, Old Man and Little Dreamer. They're actually paired together as part one and part two of a continuous story.
Right, and they introduce a character from actual folklore here.
Yes, Väinämöinen. He's a central godlike hero in Finnish folklore, specifically from the national epic, the Kalevala. Ensiferum heavily references him here, but they totally subvert the traditional triumphant myth.
How do they subvert it?
Well, we see the little dreamer, a boy living in heathen times whose dreams literally make him weaker day by day. His environment fundamentally rejects him. His father tries to ground him in harsh reality, basically telling him there is more than dreams.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because, in standard fantasy tropes, a kid discovering he has magical visions is the inciting incident for an amazing journey.
Right, he gets a letter in the mail and goes off to wizard school.
Exactly. It's his superpower. He becomes the chosen one. But this album flips that completely. The visions don't empower the boy at all. They alienate him.
Yeah, he becomes an outcast.
He reminds me of that one kid in school who stared out the window all day, completely disconnected from the math lesson, just utterly misunderstood by a practical society that demands you pay attention to the chalkboard.
That's a great way to put it.
And the boy is forced to run away. He's guided by a wise man to a surreal forest where, get this, rivers flow upwards under moonless sky. The lyrics bluntly state he is lost in this world of lies. So insight doesn't make him a king. It makes him an outcast.
Yeah, that alienation is the true cost of insight. And, if we connect this to the bigger picture, we see the exact same agonizing burden carried by the old man in the preceding track.
The Väinämöinen character.
Right. The old man is Väinämöinen, and he's described as the bearer of light. He comes to set the dreamer free and release his nightmares. He possesses the deep, ancient knowledge of the universe.
But it's not a happy ending for him either.
No, the mechanism of his enlightenment is tragic. The text literally says, as the sun peeked between the trees, the old man burst to tears.
Wait, I'm struggling with this interpretation a bit.
Okay, what's tripping you up?
Well, if the old man is this legendary mythological figure, right, and he's bringing the light of truth to free this boy's mind, why frame it as a tragedy?
I see what you mean.
Shouldn't enlightenment be a victory? Why is a godlike being bursting into tears just because the sun comes up?
That's the crux of it. Because possessing cosmic knowledge in this universe means understanding the sheer, crushing weight of time and fate. The lyrics say he is farther off than time could reach.
Oh, so he sees too much.
Exactly. He brings the light of truth to others, he takes away their nightmares, but he absorbs that existential sorrow himself. He cries at the sunrise because the light illuminates the machinery of the universe.
It eliminates the strings from the play.
Being the bearer of light means sacrificing your own peace. Because once you understand that everything is predestined, you realize how trapped humanity truly is.
Man, that's dark. You see the trap and you realize you can't dismantle it.
Right.
Which brings us to the next incredibly violent pivot in the album's narrative. Because if you're fundamentally alienated from society because you see the strings of fate, well, that isolation is eventually going to curdle into resentment.
Oh, absolutely.
When destiny feels like a cage, these heroes decide to turn their weapons against the trap makers. They go after the gods themselves.
The psychological descent here is just stark. We move through a sequence of tracks, Abandon, Windrider, Treacherous Gods, and Eternal Wait, where the narrative abandons traditional heroic quests entirely and plunges into pure, targeted rage.
It gets so angry.
Yeah, Abandon sets the baseline of despair. The protagonist states, I want to give my life to you, but my will is tied with puppet strings. They are thrown into the rain, tossed into a sea of lies, and sent away without a name.
So what does this all mean? To me, it feels like the album just sheds his high fantasy skin entirely at this point and becomes a deeply psychological thriller.
It really does feel that way.
Think about the feeling described in Abandoned, being sent away without a name. It perfectly mirrors the crushing realization someone has when they give, say, 20 years of their life to a giant, faceless corporation.
Well, that's an interesting parallel.
You know, you follow the rules, you give them your youth, you trust the system, and then one Tuesday morning, they just downsize you. They toss you out in the rain, and you realize the institution never actually cared about you at all. The gods in this album aren't benevolent creators.
No, they're not.
They're a massive, uncaring corporation.
And that realization of betrayal is the catalyst. The protagonist realizes the cosmic contract is a complete lie. And that despair ferments into the unadulterated fury we see in Windrider.
He wants revenge.
Big time. The character seeks to escape a crimson skygrave and wears the mask of the hunted. All his grief just weaponizes into a quest for vengeance. In Treacherous Gods, he explicitly targets the divine.
And he doesn't hold back.
No, he declares that the gods who brought misfortune will have their honor crushed. He promises the treacherous gods shall fall, as his blood flows cold as the streams of the north.
It's a spectacular rebellion. I mean, he's basically trying to rewrite the code of a software program from inside the application.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a digital character who realizes he's trapped in a game, so he takes his sword and starts smashing the user interface. But, does it actually work?
Well, this raises an important question. Does vengeance against the divine actually equal freedom?
I'm guessing no.
The text strongly suggests a futile effort. Look closely at the mechanics of his rebellion in Windrider. He uses the hammer of the elders to crush his way out, yet the very same track describes him as being trapped into a maze.
Even with all that power.
Even with all his fury, he is still just living in the fragments of time, waiting for his time to die.
But I have to push back a little here.
Okay, go for it.
In Treacherous Gods, the lyrics explicitly say he climbs the highest mountain and witnesses the birth of a newborn star.
Yeah.
Isn't there a genuine triumph in that act of defiance? I mean, he might be trapped, but he stood up to the creators. He broke their jaw.
It is an aesthetic triumph, certainly. It feels glorious in the moment.
Right.
But structurally, it changes absolutely nothing about his reality. Slaying the gods just leaves him with the eternal weight, which is the next track. The vengeance burns out, leaving only endless sorrow.
Oh, wow.
The protagonist says, never have I felt the rain fall down like the burning flames. All I see is the face of eternal weight. You can smash the user interface, you can even delete the developer, but you are still bound by the operating system of mortality.
The gods were just another layer of the maze.
Exactly.
You're still on the stage, you just burned down the backdrop. For you listening, I want you to think about a time you tried to brute force your way out of a situation where you had like zero actual leverage.
We've all been there.
You expend all this energy fighting against a system or a bureaucracy or even a toxic family dynamic, only to realize that winning the argument didn't actually change the inescapable reality of the situation.
Yeah, that exhaustion is real.
That is the exact exhaustion these characters are feeling.
And it leaves the listener wondering, how does a cosmic struggle of this magnitude possibly resolve? I mean, we have pre-written fates, weeping visionaries, and warriors who slaughtered their own gods just to end up waiting for death.
It's quite the pileup.
It is. And the album answers this by giving us two completely contrasting back-to-back visions of the aftermath in the final two tracks.
And the juxtaposition is brilliant. We get Battle Song, followed immediately by Goblin's Dance.
Yeah.
Let's look at Battle Song first. If you just read the chorus, it sounds like the ultimate human triumph.
Oh, totally.
The warriors sing, "We won this battle with might and fearless hearts. We came and we fulfilled our prophecy." They are marching back to their kingdom, heads held high, with glimmering eyes. It's the traditional cinematic happy ending.
It mimics that ending perfectly, until you analyze the subtle, horrific details slipped into the middle of their celebration.
The vultures.
Yes. While they're singing about their glorious return, the perspective pans down to the ground and the lyrics casually observe, Silence now falls upon this blood-red field, vultures feasting with the flesh of dead bodies.
They are completely ignoring the carnage. I think the writers are being incredibly cynical here.
Oh, without doubt.
Like a city throwing a massive self-congratulatory victory parade in the main square,
Right.
right? There's confetti falling, politicians are making these grand speeches about fulfilling destiny, while everyone is completely oblivious to the fact that they've left the city gates wide open and monsters are currently tunneling into the underground.
That's a perfect visual for it.
The human victory is entirely hollow. They fulfilled their prophecy, but the only tangible thing they produced was a graveyard.
And the universe immediately capitalizes on that hollow victory in the final track, Goblin's Dance.
Here come the monsters.
Right. While humanity is marching home, patting themselves on the back, the camera pans away from them entirely. Under the light of 3 descending moons, a proud, grim statue twists and cracks open,
Unleashing the Goblin King.
unleashing pure ancient chaos. The goblins don't care about human prophecies. They don't care about the treacherous gods or the bearer of light. They dance a macabre dance of the immortals.
It's so creepy.
The lyrics describe them bringing misfortune and chaos, grief and destruction, and the absolute finality of their reign is chilling. No soul was left alone in the mayhem of the human race.
Let us joy, let us dance, they say. They are literally laughing at the corpses of the heroes.
Yeah, it's a complete subversion of the folk metal genre itself.
How so?
Usually this kind of music celebrates ancient human triumph and heroic stamina. It's very empowering. But here the album uses those sonic expectations as a Trojan horse. It builds you up just to let the indifferent forces of nature get the final laughing word.
Taking a step back and looking at this whole journey, the mechanical depth packed into these lyrics is staggering.
It really is a masterpiece in that regard.
We started with heroes, oblivious to the fact that their fates were read from the palms of their hands. We sat with the misunderstood little dreamer and the weeping Wainamoinen, burdened by the terrible weight of cosmic insight,
We felt the absolute rage of the Wind Rider, too.
trying to violently hack away his puppet strings. And we ended with the grim realization that our proudest, most boastful human victories might just be an invitation for the goblins to dance on our battlefields.
Just a lot to process.
For you listening, strip away the heathen mythology for a second. Think about the invisible strings in your own life. These themes hit so close to home because they tap into our deep anxieties about fighting against massive systems, economic, social, or biological, that feel impossibly larger than ourselves.
Yeah, it's very grounding.
It's about that desperate, very human search for meaning and agency in a world that so often proves itself to be totally chaotic and indifferent to our plans.
Yeah. It operates as a profoundly grounded philosophical text disguised as mythology. And, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, something that really strikes me about the overarching architecture of this entire listening experience.
What's that?
Consider how the album is structured geographically. It begins with intro, a track with absolutely no human voices, just sweeping, uncaring atmosphere. And it ends with Goblin's Dance, where non-human entities claim total, laughing victory over the human race, leaving gruesome trophies all around.
So humanity is entirely boxed in by silence on one side and monsters on the other.
Exactly. Does this structure imply that the entirety of human existence, every prophecy we cling to, every bloody struggle for justice, every moment of weeping insight or vengeful glory we discussed today, is just a temporary, noisy blip?
Oh, man.
Just a brief, arrogant interruption between endless eras of absolute, uncaring nature. It's a deeply humbling perspective, and perhaps it's something for you to think about the next time you feel completely overwhelmed by your own daily, seemingly life or death battles.
Are we just fiercely acting out our lines before the strings get pulled back up to the rafters?
Exactly.
It is a lingering, brilliant question to sit with. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey through the heavy, dark, and masterfully constructed world of Ensiferum. It's been an absolute privilege unpacking this with you today. Until our next deep dive, keep questioning the script.